Hi, welcome back to another installment of the Tango Banter. I am Yelizaveta, and it's really great to spend some time with you this week. Before we launch into our topic today, I wanted to remind you that this Saturday, August 6th, I'm hosting Rodolfo Robachos for a 90-minute seminar where he is going to let us in behind the scenes of his orchestra and have us experience firsthand what musicians are going through, what kind of process they go through when they are playing different styles of the orchestras. So we're going to explore how they think about playing the style of D'Arienzo versus Pugliese versus Di Sarli. And my thought is that if we understand how to do that as musicians, if we have some glimpse of that, then it will definitely help us understand how to dance it, because, you know, it's the same music, right? The music that the musicians are playing and the music that we're dancing. So I encourage you to tune in if you would like. And if you can't attend live, don't worry, there's going to be a recording that you will have access to. So go ahead and sign up if this is at all interesting to you. All of the info is on my website at imsotango.com. You can also find the direct registration link in the show notes. So, today's topic: how do you become a popular dancer? Not even how to become, but how to be. How to be a popular dancer at the milonga. I have to say, this idea came to me on a whim, and before I rejected the idea, I decided to write it out and see if it was as good as I had a hunch about. And some interesting things came up. And so as I share some of my thoughts on this topic, I would love to hear from you and what you think about this, whether you agree or disagree with some of my conclusions. And also maybe you have a different way of perceiving these same ideas. So would love to hear from you. You can reach out to me on social media at I'm So Tango. So before we talk about what it takes to be a popular dancer at the milonga, let's define what popular actually means in this context, because the word popular can have a negative connotation, right? So for me, early on when I thought of popular, I have images of these girls who are popular in high school and they get all the attention. And then there's the rest of us. I was in the nerd circle personally, so I definitely didn't see the light of day when it came to attention in high school. So I would look on with longing and also judgment, because then I'd be like, oh, I'm so shallow. Why is it that I want to be popular? I should be above this. But still, you know, I know early on when I was, you know, just starting tango, I would look at all, you know, these people who seemed to never sit down and everybody would dance with them. And, you know, there's that feeling like, oh, well, can that be me? Like, what does it take? And so popularity, you know, I'm not really talking about popularity as a vanity metric or some sort of shallow pursuit. I'm talking about that feeling that you get when you really get what you want from tango, meaning that you're getting the amount and the quality of dances that you want, right? So it's like when we are dancing as social dancers, we want to feel accepted. We want to feel celebrated. We want to feel admired. We want to feel part of the community. We want to be popular because I think it's just something that is human nature as social creatures, right? It's like there's something about that we want to be a part of something. We want to belong. And popularity, I think, is this surface term, kind of like this facade, behind which is actually a lot of depth to me. And tango, I think, is such an interesting place where so much of these dynamics get played out. So for me, the feeling of being popular is an inward feeling that you get when you're having exactly what you want. It's that satisfaction. And it's more of like a perception, like you just feel popular. Now, whether you are popular or not, ultimately who cares? But if you feel popular, that's all that matters. You go home happy, right? And so in the case of tango, we're talking about something very concrete. It's the amount of dances and the quality, right? It's not just about not sitting down and always dancing. It's also about that every dance that you have is amazing. We all want that. Some of us doubt the possibility of that. Some of us rarely get that, but it's still a desired state, right? Like if somebody were to offer you a pill and say, if you take this pill, every single tanda that you have is going to be off the charts amazing. Like, I would take that pill, right? Like we do want that. We want every dance to be really special. So you dance as much as you want. You dance with the people that you want to dance. And really, that's kind of what we imagine that popular people have. So if you think about anybody in your community that you perceive as popular, and you watch them dance and you just think, oh, everybody wants to dance with that person, right? Everybody wants to dance with them, right? They're so good. So whoever that person is, what you're imagining is that they are this amazingly popular dancer who never sits down and gets to dance with people that they want to dance with. And they're having the thing that you want, right? So it's kind of like you're projecting onto them something that you want for yourself. Now, I have a surprise for you. Most of the time, if you ask those people if they feel popular, they will refer to other dancers that they look at, that they wish they were like, so it's kind of like a ever receding horizon line. So it's really an inward feeling, right? It has nothing to do with any kind of objective reality, right? Because so many times this has happened where I would have a conversation with someone and I have this impression that they are very successful in their dance and they get all the dances that they want. And then I listen to them talk and they're complaining. They're complaining about the quality or the quantity or how they feel about themselves. Like they're not as satisfied as I imagine them to be. So anyway, I think that's a little bit of a tangent there, but just to be aware that a lot of times what we think of ourselves and what we think of other people, there's a lot of projection going on. I know that to be true for myself, so I'm curious if you can relate to that. Okay, so how do we then work on improving the quantity and the quality of the dances? So that's what we want, right? We want both quality and quantity. And there are so many things we could focus on, and people do, right? There's you can take classes, you can take technique classes, you can take partner classes, you can work on performing and build your skill that way. You can study musicality, you can start DJing, you can memorize all the lyrics of every song. You can go to Buenos Aires. Like, there are so many things that are available, and the rabbit holes are infinite. Each rabbit hole can take your lifetime to explore. So what is it that we need to focus on? So I want to share with you just things that came useful for me. I feel popular as a dancer. I get to say that. I'm very honored and grateful a lot of times, because of course, even I, most of the time, don't feel like I deserve it. But, it didn't start out that way. I definitely had everything that I hear people talk about in terms of difficulties and challenges and frustration and feeling of inadequacy and fear and anxiety and all those things. Like, that was all part of my experience. But there were some concrete things that were very helpful, that yielded a lot of results. And, I'm the kind of person who, if somebody tells me, in order to achieve this thing, you need to do this and you need to do this for this long, let's say, I'll be like, okay, I'll do exactly what you say for as long as you say. And if by that end of that time, it didn't work, then I would give it up and move on. So imagine this process has taken me quite a few years. Like, I don't know whether I was consciously doing that from the very beginning, but I definitely don't remember a time when I wasn't testing and trying to figure out what is actually relevant in terms of my focus when it comes to tango. So these are my go-tos, my tools, my takeaways from a lot of the experimentation that I had done. And I think for me, this concept is huge. And I definitely think a lot about it, because yes, tango is an art form, and we're all artists in our own right in certain ways. And we choose to develop that art form in the way that we want, but social tango has this real social aspect to it. And so the equation doesn't add up to say, oh, if I can just learn all of the tango figures and have perfect technique, that means I'm going to get what I want at tango. I'm going to get the dances that I want. And, like, it should work that way. That's how I thought, right? When I first started, I thought that. It's like, as a follower, as long as I can follow everything, I'm going to be good. Like, that's what's required. But that's not it, right? That's not it. There's like so many bells and whistles to the social part of it, the technical side of it. So to me, this whole idea of becoming coming to that place of feeling satisfied at the milonga, that feeling that when you go, you have a good time, you dance as much as you want with as many people as you want. You don't feel frustrated, you don't feel limited, you're not stressed out, you're at ease, right? And that, you come in and you feel popular. You feel that people love you there, that they want you to be there. That feeling, okay? That feeling. So to me, there's the technical side and the social side, right? And I talk a lot about the social aspects of it. So today I'm going to put that aside and we're going to talk about the technical, like what can you do for your dance So if you're in that state where I was a few years ago, where you're like, I know I'm pretty good, I know I have the technique, I know I have the vocabulary, I feel like I'm doing things right, I think I'm on my axis, I think I'm checking all the boxes, so why am I not still getting the dances that I want? Like, why aren't higher level dancers that I aspire to dance with, why are they not responding to me? Why am I not getting invited, or why am I being rejected by the more advanced dancers? So here's what helped me figure that out. Like, I'm not going to tell you, what it was for you. I'm going to talk about what it was for me, and you can just kind of see if any of this resonates for you and whether it's useful. And if it's not, just let it go, and whatever is useful, take that. So I'll talk about 4 things that I did really helped me figure out the answers, right? These are not answers in themselves. All the questions I just asked, like why are people not dancing with me? Why am I not getting those dances? So these are not answers. These are tools to get the answer for yourself, right? And it will be slightly different for everyone. So the first thing was understanding both roles. I cannot emphasize enough how useful and revealing it is to understand both roles. So if you're primarily a follower, to learn the very basics of leading and to feel as a leader from this leading perspective, what it feels like when somebody's following you. I tell you, the struggle of that for 10 minutes is worth 10 hours of instruction from a private teacher in a private session. It's like so many things become completely obvious. And what I'm talking about is if, as a follower, somebody might be telling you, like, let's say you're working on ochos and a teacher's telling you need to dissociate here and you need pressure here and you need to this. And it's like, am I doing it? Am I doing it? Can I feel, am I doing it? Like, you have this question, right? Well, if you lead, you can step into the leading role and you can feel it from that end. And then you get this feedback and you're like, oh, I totally understand. I totally get it. Like, so you just develop this ability to deconstruct the dance in a very illuminating way, because you see it from both sides. Whereas if you're just doing one, it doesn't mean that you can't be a very successful, wonderful dancer. I know plenty of dancers who are great in just one role. But I'm just saying, for you, as you work on your dance, if you're someone who is seeking answers to questions about the structure or why something is working sometimes but not other times, I know that was a really big one for me. The first thing is, like, to understand it from both sides is so helpful. So that's the first recommendation. My second recommendation has to do with the music, and that is learning to recognize orchestras. That, more than anything, has opened up a whole world to me. So much so that now that's what I teach. I teach people how to recognize orchestras. I'm not going to go into a spiel about how useful this is in your dance, but to just kind of give you a sense that, imagine that each orchestra represents a palette in your studio, and your studio being your dance. Like, you just have all these palettes. And by knowing the orchestra, you as an artist get to show yourself through the lens of that orchestra. It's very beautiful. This is what we love about gifted dancers and performers that we watch. This is what we admire, when we can see the song through the body. And you really cannot access that level of creativity with the music if you don't know the orchestras, if you can't recognize the differences between them, if you can't hear the subtle differences in the rhythms and the melodies, because if you can't hear them, you can't show them, right? And so learning to distinguish between the orchestras creates this avenue for you to begin to express more of yourself in the dance. And I have to say, in my experience, leaders typically develop that more quickly, more readily than followers, because when you lead, you kind of have to start, you are responsible for walking with the beat, right? So you automatically are kind of forced to pay attention to the music, at least to some level. As a follower, where, the following role is a bit more passive, it's more receptive. So for a long time, I had no sense of the music at all for years. Really, it wasn't until I actually decided to pay attention. There was nothing that required me to pay attention to it. I could just follow, right? But, even as a follower, for me as a follower to understand the orchestra and know the song means I can really play with my partner. We can play together. We can perform this song the way two jazz musicians would improvise on stage on a particular theme, right? It's like a very exciting experience. So learning to recognize orchestras is a goldmine of clarity and fun, super, super helpful. All right, now the next one is sort of funny, but it is practice dancing. Okay, and let me clarify what I mean by that. There are two states, at least, that I can recognize in my brain when I dance. And I have felt those same states in my partners. There's a qualitative difference between these two states, and you can really tell. So I'm actually curious to hear from some of you if you know what I'm talking about. So in my brain, there's a state of practicing, and then there's a state of dancing. In the state of practicing is where I'm working out how I can do something, where I need to be, what is the sequence, what else is possible. I'm actively thinking and figuring things out. When I'm dancing, it's this state of I'm lost in the song. I don't care what movement I'm doing. I can't even think about what movement I'm doing. I don't remember what happened a moment ago. I am like in a total state of presence. Okay? Now, my theory is that that's actually the tango high state. Like that's the flow state, that's the nirvana state, that's the juice that we want. Okay? And I think it's an actual state of mind that we kind of have to practice. We sometimes fall into it, we fall into it by accident when things kind of align just right. You have just the right partner and just the right music. But you can develop an ability to tune into that a little bit more willingly, like willfully, that you are deciding to go to that state. Okay. And, this insight was earned with a lot of suffering, because I went to Buenos Aires the third time. And when I went, I had these really concrete issues and questions I was working with, I was really frustrated with. They were mostly structural. I was really concerned with my geometry, with my alignment. I didn't have my balance just right. I didn't understand why I was losing balance in certain places, but not others. So when I went, I signed up for a 10-pack of privates with a couple that I really admired. And boy, did I take it seriously. Everything they said to do, I would do for hours. And so I remember one of the specific things was falling, just falling. I like not being able to keep my balance. And there was these things that they were telling me to do. So I would spend hours practicing in my little room that I was renting, and I would make videos of myself and I would watch the videos. And I remember one weekend I spent like 10 hours working the various principles that they were encouraging me to focus on. And after that weekend of doing all of this stuff, I go to the private, and within the first few minutes, they tell me something to the effect of like, why aren't you doing all the stuff that we talked about last week? Oh my God. Like none of the work that I did showed. And I was brokenhearted. I was so discouraged. And I started crying. Not just a little bit of crying, but like dry heaving, you know, like when you're a kid and you're so sad and upset that you're like, you can't catch your breath, like that kind of crying. I mean, I was so disappointed. And that was one of the things that actually led to me quitting tango for a while, which is another story for another episode. But, so I'm crying, and I tell my my teacher through tears, oh, I did all this stuff, and I did this, and I did 10 hours, and I have all this video, and I'm trying, and this and that, and I'm focusing on this, and I'm doing this, and I'm doing that, and I'm like, and I did, you know, like I'm just going through all the things that I'm like, I've done all these things that have been asked of me. Why is this not working? And he looks at me and he says, yes, but when are you dancing? And I mean, I was like, what? You mean to tell me that what I'm doing is not dancing? I was like, I don't understand. I don't understand. What if I thought I was dancing. I thought I'm working on my dance. Like why, how is this possible? How is it that I'm not dancing? And so it took me some time to get over this, because I really felt insulted. Oh, you know, like the ego really, really gets a hit. I was really struck by that, and it really stuck with me. I really wanted to understand eventually what, after I calmed down, I really wanted to understand what he meant. And, it was kind of like this thought, well, if all of this work is not really adding up to me even conveying that I'm dancing, then I'm going to stop doing all this work. I just stopped doing the work. I stopped going to classes. I stopped learning new figures. And I did come to this place of like feeling there's nothing for me here, like without this work, right? And it's like once I allowed myself to give up the work, that's when I finally started dancing, because I didn't care anymore about the figures, because I knew that I suck at them and I don't remember any of them. Seriously, it's so hard for me to remember figures. It's crazy. I've wasted so much of my money paying for classes where I learned sequences that then disappear out of my head and never make it to the dance floor. So I just started focusing on dancing, which meant I really needed to enjoy the song. I needed to like it. I needed to be in it. I started getting really choosy. I really wanted to dance, and really started practicing that. And now, um, it's two very different states in my brain. And whenever I'm not having a good time at the milonga these days, it's because I'm not dancing. It's because I'm practicing, because I'm trying to do something, and I have to choose. I have to choose, like, nope, not right now. This is pugliese. Well, it might be a pugliese you hate, but you're going to dance like you love this pugliese, right? Like you're in it, right? So it's kind of a choice. All right, so the fourth thing that I really recommend as part of your development in your dance is developing your own personal body mechanics, studying your own movement by yourself without a partner, doing something like yoga or Pilates, Tai Chi, gyrotonics. The list is endless. It doesn't have to be anything specific. It just needs to be something by yourself, and it needs to be focused on you connecting with your own body and the way it wants to move. I'll explain why that's useful. I feel like one of the things that makes me a successful social dancer is because I've made it a point to become very adaptable. Years ago, one of my cornerstone teachers, Alex Krebs, he said something to me that was really important in my development. He said, you can either become a dancer that's very specialized, and that means you'll dance with only a handful of people, or you can become a dancer that's more kind of adaptable. So you dance with more people, but maybe not as high of a level. So it's kind of like a trade-off. And it really stuck with me, and I realized I really want to be the dancer in the latter category. I'm not interested in performance. I'm not interested in creating an aesthetic that is then showcased as a style, and then I am kind of really focusing on dancing with people within that style, for example, salon, or something like that. So I decided I'm much more of a democratic dancer. I'm a populist dancer. Not sure those terms are really applicable here, but I'm a dancer who wants to dance with lots of people. I want to be able to dance with as many people as possible and have fun, right? I want the ability to dance with both beginners and advanced dancers and have fun, meaning like be able to enter that state of dance, of that creative tango high, right? And so that requires that you really feel secure in lots of different embraces, because there are so many levels, so many styles. Every person is slightly different, and sometimes you dance with people with really great musicality but not very good technique, or people with great technique but not great musicality, or somebody who really understands tango sequencing but doesn't understand embrace mechanics. Like there will be no dancer's perfect, right? Even the ones that we put on a pedestal probably are working on themselves to improve. So nobody's perfect. And of course there are a lot more dancers out there that are middle of the range kind of, and beginner level, like lower level. There's a lot more of those dancers than there are high level, really professional level dancers, right? And whether we wanted to eventually everybody to be at that level, it's like I don't really care. But the reality is that both as a leader and as a follower, I spent a lot of my time dancing with dancers who are not perfect, right? And if they're not perfect and I only have one kind of mechanic that I develop by dancing with only certain kinds of people, then the dance will be very not enjoyable. I won't enjoy it, my partner won't enjoy it, you know? And so to be able to develop that self-awareness where you're able to adapt the way you need to different dancers, that really comes from learning about yourself, how your body moves, the range of motion that you have. And it's this parallel process for me that's kind of continuous between my tango and my study of my body mechanics. I mean, it's every day. Every day I'm practicing movement, I'm doing stuff on the floor, I'm stretching, I'm doing mobility. Like, it's just part of my daily routine. So I've seen a lot of payoff from that. It's really helped me develop my sense of balance and have healthy body mechanics so that when I dance with those people who don't have really good mechanics, I don't hurt myself. And yeah, just being able to make dancing more enjoyable for myself by understanding how my body's moving, right? So these are more 4 suggestions if you're needing some sort of inspiration to go towards that feeling of becoming a dancer who is getting the dances that you want, as many of them as you want, right? Your path to that, it may have many bells and whistles, and here are 4 that really have proved very helpful to me. Understanding both roles, learning to recognize orchestras, practicing dancing, right? Even when you're in your practice with your partner, sure, have some moments where you're practicing some sort of sequence, but then have a dedicated time where you're like, I'm going to practice dancing, just dancing to this song. Let's pick an interesting song that's unfamiliar, that's weird, and let's just practice dancing. Let me just like plug in, right? So practicing that, and then developing your own body mechanics, really paying attention to where your body's at, learning how it wants to move, and getting to know yourself in that way. And, I just want to also remind you that when we go dancing, what we're trying to do is we're trying to bring out some sort of expressive part of us. We are contributing, right? We're contributing to a tapestry at the milonga, right? Every couple on the dance floor is a little piece of the puzzle, and every piece is unique shape, right? So when you come into the milonga, you are yourself. There's nobody like you, and it is your service to the whole community to share your dance, to contribute to this puzzle. So you really enjoying yourself and being a really dynamic, happy dancer in the community by being yourself and bringing your own flavor to it. Everybody wants that. Everybody wants to see the unique style that the dancers bring. We're all bored with cookie cutter, right? Like it's not about, how high can you make your boleo, or how tall, how high you can kick your leg, or how many cicadas you can do in a row. That stuff is interesting, sure, but I think socially, right? Socially, what we really appreciate is novelty. We appreciate people being themselves. So these 4 recommendations ultimately are helping you develop that understanding of yourself, of who you are. What do you bring to the milonga? What kind of tango artist are you? What instrument would you be if you were in an orchestra, right? And it's a really exciting journey. It's really fun. So I hope you found this useful. I'll leave it at that. And I hope to to hear some of your thoughts on this. You can reach me at I'm So Tango on social media. Have a wonderful rest of your week. Don't forget about the seminar on Saturday. It's going to be really wonderful. I promise you. And we shall talk next week at the next Tango Banter. Ciao.